Hello, everyone. Let's get into this right away. Got too much.
Yeah, the chatter last night after it's funny. I was listening to the U.S. game against the Czechs on Westwood One radio
Good old West One on radio.
as I was driving back from Toronto, and got in the door just in time for the shootout. So I caught that. So I listened to from the middle of the first period to the end of the game, and then got home in time for the shootout.
Yeah, my eyes were fluttering during that shootout, but I saw it.
Yeah, no, it was hard. It's hard to stay awake. I mean, tonight, the freaking women's game, 11 o'clock. Ugh. It's like, golly. There is no worse time zone than this Olympics. This is like
well, this is the same time zone as Nagano.
Right, which was horrible too.
It's the exact same time zone.
It's just so funny that you watch these guys. Like if you watch the game this afternoon, for example, you're watching them, and then they're going to go to sleep, and then you're going to watch them again.
Right.
They go to sleep. So they're all sleeping right now. Anyway.
Well, the U.S. hockey team can take a nice long sleep for another 4 years thanks to USA Hockey.
I will say this. Here's what I'll say. Troy Terry in the World Juniors obviously was lights out. But the problem is, and my tired ass self was having a problem with, basically the whole game rode on Bobby Butler on the shootout. Yeah. No game should ever ride on his stick, ever.
There's I didn't understand, like that, the guy who scored the goal, the second goal,
Jim Slater.
Right, the guy that player. Why isn't he have the like? He's an actual.
Right, I know.
That's what I didn't understand either. I mean, they obviously didn't like him very much. I mean, they didn't play him very much.
He was one of their better players, but that's not including Jim Slater in the shootout is not akin to '98 when Gretzky didn't get put in there. I mean, it's Jim Slater.
The problem. This is that we're gonna get into.
Yeah.
Hello, hockey world. It's Wednesday, Friday. I don't know. It's Wednesday, February 21st, 2018.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Russ Cohen.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we are talking the Olympics for a little bit first before we get into the rumor world. And we will. But I'm sorry, I'm calling you accidentally, Mike. Anyway, all right, so here you go. It's very easy, Mike, to sit back and this should never be compared to anything with the name Gretzky in it. Like this is not that kind of tournament. It's just there's nothing.
I'm just making the point that that Gretzky was excluded. I mean, believe me, being this close to Canada and being somebody who followed the reaction to Nagano of the Canadians, that was the thing that was talked about every single moment after they lost was Gretzky wasn't in the shootout, and that was the reason. No, that was not the reason why you lost. You lost because you played against Dominik Hasek, and Dominik Hasek stoned you blind. Right. In this instance, the Team USA lost when they picked the friggin' team because they did not pick the best team that they could.
That's true. The other thing is they lost in marketing because yesterday NBC put out this ridiculous thing like, "Hey, is this team on a 1980 run?" And it's like, stop.
Yeah, talk about things that shouldn't be mentioned. Mentioning this friggin' team to the Miracle on Ice is a joke.
That's going to happen because if they won that game, then they were going to go and play the Russians, and it was going to be like.
It doesn't have to happen just because you're playing the same teams because they happen to be the ones in the tournament doesn't mean you have to say that this is like a similar run because there was nothing similar. Nothing.
Yeah, and let's not get things confused because I don't want people to accuse me of this. The players there, they tried their utmost. I'm not trying to say like Bobby Butler or
I thought they did damn well.
Right, they tried to the best of their ability. I'm not picking on them for that. What I'm picking on is USA Hockey, and Russ was even more. I mean, Russ was just as much a part of this in terms of the analysis of the roster when it came out. And we were both at the World Junior Act, and you're telling me that Casey Middlestat or Brady Tkachuk or Adam Fox or in goal, a guy like Merrick Madsen or Ottinger or Joseph Wall couldn't have been an improvement over this group?
Yeah, I didn't. I know. The decision they made, and this is, This was the decision that they made, and this is the decision actually.
Look, Will Morgan didn't even play. They took him out of school, and he didn't ever play.
Who didn't?
Will Morgan.
Oh, I know.
From the Sabres.
I mean, they made this decision, and everybody for some reason in this tournament made the decision that experience was king. Like if you had any kind of experience, I mean, Brian Giunta.
European experience is not any kind of experience, and then Brian Giunta is like your grandfather having experience in World War II, telling you what to do. 40 years later.
It doesn't mean you're drafting him to fight in the Iraq War. He's
right. I agree that like Greenlay, Giunta, and Borkline, I guess it was, made very little sense to me. Like that
yeah.
I mean, it's just all around. And there are certain things like that line. Giunta is not going to create any offense for you. He's going to kill penalties for you occasionally. Maybe he's going to be a emotional guidance for this or whatever. But you played him way too often. I played him way too much.
If you wanted Brian Giunta there as a veteran leader, as a fourth line guy, as a Chris Drury, as a guy like Chris Drury was in 2010, okay, to have him play a major role is ridiculous.
What was James Wisniewski on this team? It was ridiculous. What was his role? 2 minutes on the power play?
I think he's okay on the team, but the role, like that is what part I didn't understand. Like I actually thought that he did okay when he was on this few minutes. There are some players though that really stepped up, and
sure, there definitely were.
And the fact that when we sat here and talked about this whole thing was going to go down when it was decided that the U.S. that the NHL players weren't going, I think any of us would have taken them being in a shootout to go to the medal round. Like I think that
except I don't think so, because we all knew there was zero chance, 0.0, even less than that, for them to beat the Russians, and they proved that.
All I can say is you know me, I have a tendency towards hyperbole, but what the hell? In this joke of a tournament, if USA Hockey would have chosen the best possible roster that they could, they would be playing in the medal round. They would not be heading back to the U.S., finishing in 7th or 8th place.
That's very possible, and I don't disagree with that. But given this is what they had, the players who went there, I thought
this isn't what they had. See, this is what they chose.
This is what they chose.
And my argument is there's no way they could have looked at this roster and said, we can win the gold medal. I guarantee you there wasn't one person in the room that said that.
Yes, exactly.
That's fair.
I mean, you sent a bunch of workmanlike players there, and they tried their hardest. But was it the best that you could put up, even with the restrictions of not having NHL players? No, it wasn't. And that's where at least Canada. Now, obviously, I think Canada could have chosen a couple different players. We talked about Sam Steele and Jordan Kyrou, guys who played for the World Juniors. They decided they didn't want to go that direction.
Right,
other than one or two players that are on that Canadian roster, all of them had NHL experience. And they're gonna be in tough because Scrivens got hurt today, and now they're gonna have to go with Kevin Poulin and Justin Peters in goal. And that's not
that's way better than what the U.S. had.
Yeah, that's way better than Zapolsky and Maxwell and poor David Leggio. It's funny. David Leggio played for he's the only one of the three that I'd ever heard of. And believe me, I know a lot of people who play hockey, so I didn't know who the hell Zapolsky and Maxwell were.
Maxwell I had heard of. But Zapolsky got all the playing time. Like, I don't understand what he did to earn that.
Yeah, I don't either. And I really I thought he was really out of position a lot. And as you're watching this, you had to put on different glasses because you couldn't, you're watching usually like last night I'm coming out of the Flyers Canadians game, right? I'm watching that game, and then I'm shifting right over to this. And the Flyers Canadian game was not a good NHL game. I stretch the imagination. Two teams, the Flyers didn't play well. The Canadians don't really play well.
Well, actually, the Canadians, I will say this. I thought the Canadians played well for half that game. They did.
It came out hard. Jeff Petrie was on fire in that game. I don't know. He was all over the place. But he obviously wants to get traded. But that's what I came out of that game thinking. He's trying to stir up something. But that game, so you look at the level of that, and you see that these players are clearly making bad decisions. They're clearly not able to handle passes as well. They're clearly not able to. There's things that you just see that the U.S. players will do, and yet still, it was exciting last night because they had the craziness of that whole thing when they tied it at 2-2 was insane because.
It was so exciting. I fell asleep. I don't think it was that exciting.
That's the thing. And I was exhausted, but I was up, we were all up super early in the morning. And I'm watching this game. So the thing that happened, one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and this just again shows inexperienced players and probably faulty coaching, but they had players that were out there for a 7-minute shift. Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't get them off the ice. Literally, they iced the puck 4 times. They killed an entire power play before that. Then they iced the puck 4 times. They couldn't, and then eventually the Czechs take a 2-1 lead because literally they only changed one player out in 7 minutes, which I've never seen before in hockey. Like a 7-minute shift.
All I know is that watching the Spengler Cup is exciting. You know, when the U.S. team is playing there or the Canadian team is playing there, but the problem is it's the Spengler Cup. It's at the level of ECHL/AHL hockey, and that's what this is. With the exception of a couple players, this is AHL, and maybe that's
no question. And I agree. So I'm just there's several ways to look at it, but before we move on,
I have to tell you, not only was I not excited, I was just like floored that they're going to try and just backdoor their way into a medal round with really never playing a great game. They didn't play one great game this whole tournament.
They lost to Slovenia.
They beat the Slovaks 5-1. That game against the Slovaks, they played well.
Well, wait. Okay.
They beat the Slovaks. The Slovaks beat the Russians.
Great.
The Slovaks beat the Russians. They beat the Slovaks 5-1. So sit there and say, you know.
Okay. So they held the Russians to 4 goals. That was a good game.
I went into this tournament with no expectations.
No, me too. None whatsoever.
But that doesn't prevent me at the end of it as an American to be pissed off at the state of USA hockey.
I think there's different things we're talking about. Like, so I'm like, we can get into, we can get into how the team was chosen and who should be there, right. And I want to get into that. But I'm just before we get there, I just want to, the players who are there, it's not their fault that they're chosen, and they went there and they did their best, and I honestly thought that they did better than they should have, and I was impressed by certain players, like Terry, for example, who is obviously a good player, and I think one of their better players, and he was. But he knew that he was playing with lesser players because he tried to stick handle through everybody all the time, right?
Ryan Donato made a very good impression on me. And then talk of him basically possibly stepping into the Bruins lineup after the Olympics. It's who knows, or after
Kovalchuk in the tournament, for crying out loud. Look, think about it that way. Like, who would have thought he would outscore Kovalchuk in the tournament? That's just crazy, right?
Well, so the tournament's not over for Russia.
Going into last night. And then you also have to throw into account that they played 5 games in 8 days, right? So you're going into last night, they were exhausted, and the fact that
Brian Giunta looked like he played 5 games in 8 days.
But there's a couple
in
players.
Game 2.
So Donato, obviously, no question about it. Greenlay, who I liked when he was on the World Junior team, right? Greenlay,
way overhyped, way overhyped,
and just the kind of player you don't want on your team. Like, just clearly to me, like.
He's a good player, but he needs players.
No, he's not. He's a talented
players to feed him the puck. He's got to work off
player, but he's not. He's a talented player, but he's not a good player. If that makes any sense, like he's
a good player. He needs players to feed him the puck. He has to clean up rebounds and beat the other team in the crease. The problem is he had no one to feed him the puck.
Right. At the World Juniors last year, he was a difference maker because
I know, and I agree. And I would say, but in this tournament,
he was big, and he went to the net, and and the Canadian defense couldn't control him. But in this tournament, like Russ said, they couldn't get him the puck. Now this is the thing: Donato was noticeable. Terry at times was noticeable. Those are the type of players that they should have brought.
No question, they should have. The other guy that really struck me was Brian O'Neill, who was incredible. I mean, you guys didn't watch the games very closely, obviously, but Brian O'Neill, who was from Yardley here, I guess plays in Helsinki.
Nobody's signing him, I'm
not saying anyone should sign him, but that kid's effort. I mean, he hit the crossbar in overtime. Remember, like that's how close. He scored the first goal of the tournament. He made plays. He makes the pass to tie it at 2-2 for the breakaway.
I'm interested. Honestly, this is the thing that separates Canada from the U.S. right now when it comes to hockey. Canada is interested in one thing: Canadian exceptionalism and winning. And that's all that USA Hockey should be interested in. American exceptionalism in hockey and winning.
So let's step on to your topic now, which I'm going to agree with you, okay? Because if you can't do that, if you don't think, even by putting the best players on the ice, that you can compete with the Russians, even if you, then you go young. Then you go young, and that's where I'm going to agree with you completely. Then you get these guys experience, you get them in there, you give them a chance. But then the other side of me says, I kind of like the story of these guys, like the Brian O'Neills, who have worked hard, who obviously were talented players who are riding the buses over in Finland or whatever, playing in the.
This is not a Hollywood script. This is
like watching a bunch of brick.
Hollywood. The Olympics are all about a Hollywood script.
This is like watching a bunch of bricklayers play hockey. Like, it was just ugly.
This is Mystery Alaska. That's what it is. It's Mystery friggin' Alaska.
No, you're unable to separate your hockey mind, which I agree with you. My hockey mind says, but just the entertainment value of mine. If they had won that game, if Brian O'Neill scores on that, I'm pretty freaking excited about the Russian game. Like, I'm thinking that's going to be fun.
Get out of here! Will you stop it?
Are you kidding me?
I am.
I mean, come on.
There's nothing. I'm saying this from a perspective of just a person watching a sport. Like, I had to separate.
And I get that.
My hockey.
Okay, so you're suspending all belief, like you're watching the Avengers. I get it.
No, like I'm watching Big Air, surfboarding or whatever that they're doing, out there. I'm watching an event. Like, I'm watching an event of people who, now the only thing sorry, I turned my light off there. The only thing I can say is, so I'm watching an event. So I'm suspending my ability to, watch hockey and say that that's a good player. They should be dumping it in, or they should be, keeping a guy high or whatever. I'm putting that all on my head. I'm just going for the fun. I
can understand the leaning towards the romanticism of the underdog story. The underdog story.
Why
not? Wait. Screw the underdog story. I want to friggin' win. I want to win. The best way to win is not to have this romanticism about some bricklayer from Yardley, PA, or wherever the hell. No, get the best. It
would have been more
players.
exciting to watch like sea monkeys and a glass of water. Honestly,
I don't think so. I think it was.
Have you watched Sea Monkeys? Did you ever see? Never mind.
I love Sea Monkeys. I had them. They didn't have little eyes like they were supposed to, but they
Let's talk trade rumors, please.
No. 1 second. Canada wins today. They beat Finland, right? So they're still going.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Eric O'Dell fan. Eric O'Dell had the game of his life today. All right. He literally was the best player in that game. I mean, and I've joked about it before about he wins the faceoff to get the only straight back, and then he wins every friggin' faceoff he takes.
And he runs a hell of a website too.
This guy dominates the faceoff circle.
He's like their Rudy. So what?
It's great. That's a great story. Again, I've been following this guy.
It's great for him to tell his grandkids. I want to watch the best possible talent.
Thank you. I mean, it's not.
The best possible talent's not going. Okay, it's the best possible talents in the NHL.
No, the best possible talent that can go. That's
again.
It should have just been. They should have just canceled the World Junior Tournament and held it as the Olympics.
No. This is. I'll tell you what this is. This is like going to see Riverdance, and they said, not only will you not see Michael Flatley, not only will you not see his understudy, you're going to see the next guy up.
Or we'll put it in an example.
Always very exciting.
We'll put it in an example that you can sympathize with. It's going to see Hamilton without Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Right. I get it. I get that.
It's like seeing George Clooney as Batman.
But you knew that going in. One thing, if you go and you buy a ticket and he's not there, but if you knew this going in, this is what this was, right? So this is, I get it. I do. And it's every time they keep showing, but now I'm pulling for Canada. And then the German team, the game the Germans win, and I watched the German-Swiss game. I'm an Olympic guy. Like, I like the Olympics. All right, I'm watching hockey. I'm watching an Olympic competition. So I'm watching the Germans, and it's on at weird hours. Like for us, come on, Russ. For us, 7 o'clock in the morning.
I'm done.
Those are my hours.
Honestly,
I'm more into the U.S. curling team than the U.S. hockey team for the men.
There's never been more curling televised than has been televised in the last.
Right now, and let's end it with this. Right now, the only hockey game I'm watching from beginning to end for the rest of this freaking tournament is tonight, is Canada-US,
Yeah,
in the women's final, because that one will be compelling and the best players will be there and it will be bloodletting on the ice. It will be emotional. It'll be great.
Which is what I said all along, that they were going to be the story. And I'll tell you what. And again, I know like people looked at me cross-eyed when I said I felt like Canada's men's team could win silver in this, and I still feel like they can. I think the women's team is going to win because I've watched this team. I've watched some of them play in their various leagues. And the coaching has been really good. Like the puck possession is something that they've never really been able to do against great teams. Kendall Coyne has the most speed in the tournament. They have a rookie goalie that's doing great. Hillary Knight is no longer even the total focus of she has to do everything. This is a very strong team. Megan Duggan's still in there doing great. Like this is a team I think will win the game. It'll be a close game. They're not going to call any kind of fighting, and they're going to be a lot of pushing around. That will be real hockey.
Yes.
Now, is Canada going to go with who's Canada going with in goal tonight? Because that's like a big thing.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I think and I always screw up the pronunciation of her last
Shannon
name.
Sabatos.
I think Sabatos is playing.
She's good. I mean, she is a veteran.
I talked
she's
to somebody.
I
talked to one of the players on the U.S. team, and they were a little pissed off that they didn't play her against them in the preliminaries. There was something like they took it like a little bit of a backhanded slight. You know, I mean,
I could see that, but that's fine. Let it build up some more animosity.
I mean, all you need is more animosity, right? So build up more animosity.
She did get her legs swept like Daniel LaRusso in Karate Kid.
Just look out for Brianna Decker. She's been doing really well, and I think she's going to break out too. The speed on this team is great. Like actually, what people sometimes tell me, just regular people, is that, hey, you know what? I can't watch women's hockey because it really doesn't resemble men's hockey. It really does. This women's hockey really does resemble men's hockey. Actually, when I was growing up, other than Guy Lafleur and maybe 20 other guys in the league, nobody was skating as fast as Kendall Coyne.
You're right about that. No, and it's interesting that they're playing on this big ice surface too, which is really it definitely throws it. I think that this would be better if they weren't on a big ice. If it was
on smaller ice, I agree.
But I will say what it seems like to me from watching, and I've watched a lot of these games too, because I'm an Olympic junkie. Okay, I have the games on all the time, and my wife's watching it all the time, and she's a big skier, so we're watching everything. But it feels like Canada has some of the better individual talents, but the U.S. plays better as a team. It feels like that's what it feels like. The U.S. definitely, they pass better. They're in position better. There are some players in Canada that are crazy good, and they can take, and with that size rink, they can take it end to end and take shots and score.
I think Canada would dispute that since they've won so many gold medals, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but no.
Well, this is a different team for the U.S. They made some cuts.
Has dominated that Canadian team, like in the world, and not the world championship.
In the world championships, yes.
They've been in the Olympics that Canada's owned.
Yeah, so. until when it counts, it's like the New York Giants or the New England Patriots win every game until they come up in the Super Bowl against the New York Giants, and then the Giants win.
I know, but when these two teams play, it doesn't matter if they're playing an exhibition game in Newark or if they're playing in the gold medal.
They hate each other, and that's what I love.
That's great about it. I mean, it's like if there were only two teams in the NHL, that's what you're looking at here. It's like there's two teams of the best players. I mean, both of these teams could put together B teams that would be better than everybody else in the tournament.
Yeah. Yes, except we do have to give the Russian women credit. They did lose to the Finns, but they advanced, and they've never advanced before, and that's something good for them because it's not like they've never had the talent. They just never put the resources behind a team to try and get the talent, and now they're finally doing that.
It didn't hurt to have a goalie who's actually bigger than Michael Neuwirth. I was like, that was incredible. On the Russian women's goalie. She is. I mean, that was crazy. I was checking this out.
Let's talk some rumors now. Come on.
Yeah, all right. Let's get into some rumors. All right, guys. Sorry. We appreciate all you guys listening. I think it's a great debate to have. We'll have it another time, but definitely watch tonight. I'm going to watch the rest of the game, so whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk about the 90-meter ski jump another time.
Yeah. Oh, the big air competition is just insane. All right, so here we go. Rumor time. So much to talk about. Where to start? All right. Last week I put out there's two rumors I put out last week that got the most traction for whatever reason on Hockey Buzz, because people wanted to tell me how I was crazy, which is usually the case. So, and they were these two rumors. The first one was the Leafs McDonough, the idea that the Rangers were trying to trade McDonough and Nash to somebody. like, but no one's going to take on both of them. So the Leafs wanted McDonough, and they were trying to find another taker for Nash. And they were trying to work out a 3-way deal. And Nash, I said at that time, was Nashville or Carolina. Nashville. Since then, I've heard that Nashville's just not interested in Nash anymore. Winnipeg might be, but I think it's more. I don't think he's going to go there. More Carolina, right? So this is still going. This is still. And I wondered after yesterday whether or not this was still a possibility. Talked to somebody this morning, and they said it is. And they used the Lou terminology, which is like, plan B.5 is what they said.
Okay.
And basically Lou always has, 6 plans going into every trade deadline. And, and he's going to work out every possible scenario before that. And this is one of them. This is pretty high up. There is a scenario that's more likely and more probable in his mind. And maybe two, they said, maybe 2 scenarios are more probable, but this is up there. This is pretty high. So,
well, look, okay. And we'll take what Babcock said last night after the game. And I know it's ambiguous, but you're never going to get point A, point B, point C from Babcock. It's just not going to happen. But when Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun asked him about Van Riemsdyk and how the decision to keep him, assuming that was the decision, how it was difficult, Babcock did not slam the door on the possibility of the Leafs, making moves that would benefit them in the long term that might sacrifice in the short term. I mean, I have the quote here, but I won't.
I didn't hear it at the time, Mike, but it's pretty freaking shocking, honestly. Because, I mean, and not in a lot of ways, because usually Babcock won't even get involved in that discussion.
Right. He was, and that was after the fact. I was surprised that he went down that road, because easily he would just say, I don't know anything about that, and just skirt the issue. But he said, I don't think anything is an easy decision. You always have this plan, but your plan can change. It depends on what people want. There are a lot of times you're not planning on doing anything and you end up doing something. He's talking about Van Riemsdyk here. You would think that they're
your top 6 players,
right? But is one of your top 6 players that most people think there's not a chance that they're going to re-sign, that they're probably going to extend, guys like Nylander on long-term deals, that they won't have the money to sign Van Riemsdyk for an 8-year deal, which apparently he's looking for a TJ Oshie type contract, which they're not going to do. So in that instance, if he's walking away for only cap space, there's a chance if they get somebody to step up, like a Nashville, if Nashville is looking for that one big forward and they give up enough young assets where it makes it worth their while to do it, I can see it happening before Monday.
Yeah. I mean, I think
there's always a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. And I think that it's out there. McDonough, I don't think there's many places where he could go. I think Toronto's one of them. I think Toronto's one of maybe 3, and that's tops. I just think because there's not that many teams that are.
See, this is the only reason I agree with. The Leafs could be in on McDonough, but this is the only thing that persuades me that it's not going to happen before the deadline. If you take what reportedly the Bruins were asked to offer for McDonough, there is no way in hell that Lou Lamoriello is giving up the equivalent of a DeBrusque, a Carlo, and a number 1. No,
true. But I'm going to give you a name to add to that list. I don't think Ryan McDonough is getting traded during the deadline, but Mark Stahl is now back, and that's a contract that if the Rangers could unload, they will.
No, and that has been discussed as well. Earlier in the year, it was discussed.
Because he didn't have a bad year at all, but he has to play a different role, same as Girardi.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. I can tell you this, that I've heard Boston will trade Carlo. That's a change, and that's a change from before. That they're not. There was a point at which they wouldn't trade him for anything. Like if you remember, like last year, this time they was definitely. There were offers out there.
It has to be for somebody they can put on their top pairing.
Significant, but he's not on the untouchable area anymore.
Right.
Boston is definitely trying to get offense as well, and they're out there. They were looking around. They did. I was told talk to Ottawa about Mike Hoffman, who the Senators said they weren't going to trade him within the division at this point, which I don't think anyone else has reported. But I got that on a good on a good source.
I mean, they do have JFK in Providence. I don't know, Mike. I can't look it up, but if you can look up his numbers, I mean, that's a possibility for Boston to bring him up.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and I also think, I really wouldn't be surprised as well if they turned around and if Iginla actually did get some kind of time.
Listen, Jerome Iginla will skate all he wants. I don't think he's playing in the league this year. I don't. And I love Jerome Iginla. I just don't think he can do it.
Forsbacka Karlsson has 13 goals, 16 assists in 52 games with Providence.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody if they're making a deal for a forward that
he could be in it.
He could be in it. You know, I keep going back to Zaboro and Senyshyn, you know. So I mean, I think that's a possibility. Honestly, I don't know, and I didn't know about this. Apparently, Iginla is living in the Boston area, which is strange because maybe he loved it when he was playing there, but I don't know. I mean, if it's a minimum deal, it's low risk. They might
skate though, but he can't skate anymore.
Yeah, but we're talking adding a guy, even if it's a shadow of his former self. You're talking about signing Jerome Iginla and having him on your fourth line in the playoffs. I mean, they might do it.
For the time being, you know, like you can do a lot.
I wouldn't do it. It's not worth
it. But they might.
They do. Here's the interesting thing about, and when the Boston thing is, I talked to somebody today about this, and it was really fascinating because they brought up, you know, how is Vegas doing what they're doing, and young, fast players and all that stuff, and then they said, you know, that's also how Boston's doing what they're doing. And they said that, you know, the teams are actually playing this, and that's, you know, why a lot of people are surprised at Boston too. It's the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of players, same kind of game. But yet, I'm not sure that Sweeney is as committed to this as McPhee is, because I think that I get the impression that they want to add some experience, like in Boston, where McPhee seems to be okay just going for it. You know,
I think Sweeney does not want to empty the coffers. He's worked very hard, and Russ knows this. He's worked very hard to restock the shelves in Boston. And you know, this is a young team that has come a long way. He's got the veteran core there, and they, you know, I think they're going to add, but I don't think he's going to trade 2 or 3 young prospects, just like a team like Tampa is not going to trade 5 or 6. And this was the report coming out of TSN yesterday, at TSN and Sportsnet, 5 or 6 assets to get Erik Karlsson. You know, Pierre Dorian and Eugene Melnick are delusional if they think they're going to get that for a guy who's probably going to go free agency after the end of next year. No way.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I do. I mean, it depends, of course, if they're allowed to talk to him ahead of time, but they still can't officially really even talk to him yet, right? So you can't even you can't talk to him until July 1st anyway, no matter what you do.
Well, no, it's of next year.
Can they sign?
July 1st of 2018? They can start negotiations.
Right, so July 1st of 2018. Right, so they can't till July 1st. Yeah,
but they can. I mean, there's nothing.
Well, I mean, if you trade for him, you can. But I mean, obviously, there's nothing.
There's nothing preventing Ottawa from saying, hey, you know, we're not negotiating here, but just can you give us some parameters of what it would cost?
Yeah, no, and I think that's going to happen. There's no question.
It probably already has.
But it already has. But it honestly doesn't even have to happen. He's going to be the highest paid player in the NHL. Like, we know he's roughly going to be around $11 million a year. I'll throw that out there. That's and it's crazy number. Yeah, I think not that, give or take, you know, $500,000 is going to be $11 million a year. It's going to be more than 10 and less than 12. So
and in the chat room, people were asking what teams would be the target for Van Riemsdyk, or you know, what teams might be in it on Van Riemsdyk. And I think, you know, I think it's all the teams that are in on Nash. But I think the cost. But
yeah, I would say. But I would say New Jersey. See, I don't think New Jersey or the Islanders are in on Nash. I would say New Jersey and the Islanders would be in on JVR.
Right, but the thing is though, if you're New Jersey, why are you going to give up the assets that Toronto would want when you could sign them in July for nothing? New Jersey's not a legitimate. I mean, New Jersey's having a good year. They could make the playoffs, but they're not a contender. So it makes no sense for their business model to give up a Mike McLeod and a first-round pick for JVR when they could sign him for nothing on July 1. It's the teams that need that guy as the final piece to the puzzle. That's Nashville. Maybe that's Anaheim, who's in a battle to get in the playoffs. But as long as you get in, then you're dangerous.
Somebody brought up Dallas to me with him. And I don't recall Hitch and JVR really having a great relationship. I don't think they did. Did they?
No. I mean, I don't think it was good because of the not playing the defense, not being tough enough part.
Yeah, that's what I remember from it.
Yeah. And all of a sudden everybody's, and this is a tactic, I'm sure, by the general managers who don't want to pay through the nose for rentals. All of them are backing off and saying, well, we'd like to get guys with term. We want to make hockey deals, which is aimed specifically at scaring the crap out of the GMs who have Evander Kane and Rick Nash and are asking for a boatload for them.
Right. I mean, I think that I think San Jose might be in on JVR. Possibly. San Jose is the team that everyone seems to be ignoring. And it's very strange. And you guys are saying, last week we talked, you guys are acting like they're going to make the playoffs. I'm telling you right now.
Okay, but they are an older team. That's the problem.
But they're a very good team, and they are going to make the playoffs. They have a lot. They're not all old either. They
have a mix.
They're not all old, but Thornton could be out for the remainder of the season or close to it. They're addressing of their center position was picking up Eric Fair from Toronto yesterday.
I think that there's more to that. I think that that's not addressing their center position. That's not.
Well, it's depth. It's depth.
For JVR, like looking at Henry like who can play center or wing, can do either.
No, he can't play center. He cannot play center. Not anymore. If he ever could, he cannot play center. No.
Not even if you ask him nicely.
Yeah. I don't know. I think San Jose is making the playoffs. I mean, right now they are.
They very well made, but
they're 3 points ahead.
How much could they still trade off for future assets with still some aging players on there, which they have?
That's the thing with San Jose right now. They don't have, one of the teams, Calgary. They're severely limited because they've traded a ton of draft picks in the Hamonic deal and the Smith deal. San Jose, they don't have a second. They don't have a third.
Right.
They don't have I think they only have a seventh this year. They don't have a seventh in 2020. They've traded significant picks. Now the sevenths aren't, but I'm just saying they've traded. So those seconds and thirds are the players that are the prospects or the draft picks that you move to make deals. And if they're already without them, then you're talking about trading players already existing in your organization for probably, you'd be at best being a dark horse candidate in the West.
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts. Patrick Maroon, it really does sound like he's going to get traded. And they're not going to get an extension done there yet. And I think this is partially just Oilers saying, we can trade you and you'll come back anyway. Them assuming that, which I think is fine. I did hear yesterday that Toronto had talked about Patrick Maroon. It was the first time I had heard that. I know other people probably reported it in the past, but first time I had actually heard it from somebody that I trusted.
Well, that would be the type of thing that if the Leafs are trading JVR, not to make this all Leafs, but the Leafs are trading JVR, they would need to placate Mike Babcock, to not create a gaping hole in their lineup, to bring back a left winger who could adequately fill the position. Right. Maroon's one. Thomas Vanek might be another. They probably would only have to give up a third or fourth round pick for.
I think Vanek. I think Vanek would be a good fit for them. I really do. I think that he would make some sense. The other thing I heard that was kind of strange last night was we've talked about a lot about Nick Jarmelson, and. This is a strange one because I actually heard that Montreal is trying to get him, which is a little bit surprising, but at the same time,
well, if they're getting him for the future, it's not that surprising.
Yeah, for the future, and if you think he's got a lot left in his game still, they're gonna try to make a move. I mean, he is. There aren't that. If you look at the UFAs to be, there aren't that many players like him. So you can go and you can actually make something happen there.
Although can you imagine? And this would be probably. Montreal signed Carl Alsner to that long-term deal.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really worked out that well. Yarmulson's on a contract for a year, and then he's a free agent. Could this be a way of Montreal clearing long-term money and moving Alsner out for a guy like Yarmulson?
Yeah, some people on Twitter last night suggested that to me.
I don't think so. I thought Alsner, to be honest, played well last night. And I got to be honest, Drouin played great. I mean, he hit a crossbar that could have changed the game too. Wow. So Galchenyuk was the only one that was a little lost in the mix there until 3-on-3.
I thought Pacioretty looked good too.
And Pacioretty did have a good game.
And looking at that, I put out to people on Twitter that I think Pacioretty is the best available forward at the deadline.
If he's truly available.
Yeah.
He is available. I mean, he's definitely available. It's expensive, but he's honestly, I'll take him over anybody else we've discussed.
Well, the name that came out yesterday, which was a little humorous, and maybe again, this is a signal to the teams that have rentals that you're charging too much. We're going in a different direction. Is all of a sudden Thomas Tatar's name in Detroit is coming out, who's got 3 years left at over $5 million. Maybe
nobody's touching that. Nobody.
First of all, yeah, exactly. I don't think anybody's touching that. I think Detroit would love to get rid of them in the sense that if you could get an equivalent value in a sense when you're rebuilding, which they clearly are. That's why this sort of shell game that's going on with Luke Glendening is a little hilarious. It's like they were asking for a second round pick from Toronto. Toronto offered a fifth, and then they stopped the negotiations at that point. Well, if you're asking for a second, then he's available. It's just a question of how much you want to get.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that. Tatar is definitely, his name has come up in the past as well. As a guy, as a player who Detroit, I do think would move. I think Detroit's looking very much at breaking this thing down. And they have some players there that have shown, like Tatar, and that who's the other guy there who's had ups and downs. They've had some players.
Gustav Nyquist.
Yeah, Nyquist has had moments when he's unstoppable, right, and then moments where he just disappears for 3 months at a time. So
right. But Kevin said on a previous show, basically, if there was anybody out there that would give value for Nyquist, they would move him. I mean, the guys that Detroit are not moving. They're not moving Larkin. They're not moving Mantha. They're not moving their kids. They're probably not moving Athanasiou unless they think it's going to be a problem to re-sign him after the deal that he signed earlier this year. But they'll probably move anybody else, including Danny DeKeyser. They're definitely moving Green. If they could find some sucker to take Jimmy Howard, they probably.
But I think even DeKeyser's last deal prevents him from being moved. He's making more than you'd like to pay him.
Right. Oh yeah, I agree. And that's going to be the problem. It's like long-term money on a guy who this year has really underachieved. Now, you could say it's because that the team around him is not that great, and maybe if he goes someplace else and he fits in a different way, then things could work out. I'll tell you, though, I saw Florida last night.
Yeah.
With Luongo, they do have a chance.
Yeah, they got a shot.
They're 6 points out. It's key that Luongo stays healthy. Their defense is good. Ekblad played pretty well. They generated a lot of chance that up the middle with Trocheck and Barkov. They have Bukestad playing the wing. Huberdeau is playing well. It was a good game. It was a 1-0 game. It wasn't overly exciting, but you can see a way for Florida. They might be adding before the deadline. If they do, they have a chance.
I'll tell you what, I saw Dale Talon at the Five Nations, and he was goofing around with a lot of the GMs that were there. So he's certainly not a guy that's looking worried, and he actually looks pretty organized. So I think he's got a lot of confidence. Luongo could get hurt at a moment's notice, but I will say this about Ekblad. When he got that second concussion, that really slowed him down this season. It's nice to see him finally playing back to what we know he can do.
Yeah, and Yandel's been good for them. Which is, I've talked to people who have said that, really surprised at how good Yandel's been. Like he's really,
and Matheson's real good too, obviously.
I do think that the one thing that they need, and if they do go out and maybe that's the place for Evander Kane. They need help on the wing so badly. I mean, right now. I mean, Tippett's probably a year away, and obviously he played a little bit. But, I mean, if they could get themselves one really good winger, they might have a good chance to catch one.
Here's the thing about Evander Kane. I have been sniffing around and talking to people. You don't hear anything about where he might go.
Drager said last night that he's just started to hear. I think people ran scared away from him, Russ, because he was talked about it a lot, Well, he was talked about a lot, plus – he went in the tank in terms of his scoring, and he really the last 3-4 weeks has not been the same guy. And now that Eichel is out for an extended period, his center is gone. I mean, this is the time that Buffalo needs to strike. I mean, because you wait any longer, and maybe if you wait closer to the deadline, you get two teams going against each other, and you maybe get a first-round pick. But I don't know. To me, it starting to sound like they get a second and a third for him, and that's a lot lower than I would have thought.
Yeah. No, I mean the teams I've heard with him really have been I'll bring up my thing right now. So it's pretty much a battle of two teams. But I would say Columbus is like an outside possibility for Evander Kane. Talking to some people, they're coming.
But nobody's been in a rush to try and acquire him. It's not like Buffalo's been in it and not sure what they want to do. He's been available for months.
No,
nobody is rushing.
Week period when we had Kevin Allen on, I remember a while back, and we were talking about this too with him, and because I had been talking to it, where it looked like he was going to get traded like a month and a half ago, like that.
Right.
Really thought, and at that point, I felt like Botterill overplayed his hand.
I think they're waiting on Botterill to lower the price.
But I think you're looking at St. Louis. But St. Louis would rather have Pacioretty. It depends where Pacioretty, where the price goes. St. Louis is a B plan would be Evander Kane for St. Louis. I think, again, San Jose is involved in that one too, and Carolina possibly. So
we had one minor deal today. Jakob Jerabek from Montreal to Washington for I think it was a 5th round pick in 2019. And again, this is symbolic of what's going on with the Caps. The Caps only have $600,000 in cap space. So any deal, if they wanted to make a deal before the deadline now, it would have to be money in, money out, or somebody being placed on long-term IR, which pretty much takes them out of the running for anything. It's gonna, they're gonna have to get guys stepping up from Hershey if they need.
Yeah, having 600,000 in cap space is like having $5 in your pocket in real life.
But Detroit could take a lot back for Green. I mean, the question is that if they get the right kind of prospects,
they can only take 50%. That's all they can take.
50%, but at the same time, I mean, who's on their team that's like dead weight money wise? I didn't even look, but if there's somebody
from Washington, I'll check.
Definitely guys on their team that are dead weight. I mean, Tampa claiming Gabriel Dumont from Ottawa today for waivers.
Well, see that one's sort of easily explained. Dumont was placed on waivers by Tampa, and Ottawa claimed him. Now with Tampa claiming him back, they can put him in Syracuse. They can put him in the AHL without waivers, and then all they basically need is if they want to call him up during the playoffs, if they need him, they can store him down in the AHL, not take up a spot on the 23-man roster. And
that's almost like Tampa owes something for Ottawa now for future considerations because they helped him out.
Yeah, they did.
It was a little bit of an interesting move that way,
Right. I'm pretty sure we'll see something down the line to help out on that.
There really isn't that much dead weight in terms of Washington. I mean, Burakovsky's making $3 million, Tom Wilson $2 million, Jay Beagle 1.75, Brett Conley 1.5. I mean, I don't think those are guys that they want to move. So they.
How about defensively? I mean,
they just don't have much flexibility. That's it.
Who do they have on defense? Making
Niskanen and Orpik are both making over 5.
Yeah, that's not.
Orlov is making over 5. Carlson, obviously, and then basically they've added 2 under $1 million guys in Jerabek and Kempney. So they don't have a lot of room. So you can pretty much squelch all the Washington rumors, folks.
Yep.
Well, for now. I never doubt these gyms and figuring out ways to make things happen. It's just, it can be great. You just don't know how it can work out.
All of a sudden, Brooks Orpik comes up with a mysterious
and he's on.
Barry Trotz likes him, and that team likes him to the point where they want him around.
No. What I'm saying is
they put him on long term,
until the first game of the playoffs, and then he comes back.
I don't know if they'll do that.
I mean, there's a lot of people who still think that Chicago did that with Patrick Kane a few years ago. So
yeah.
Now, before we get out of here today, and we do have to go, unfortunately, because it's 4 and get a heart out a little bit today. But the Flyers, an interesting stat here that came up. Someone told me about today, which is astonishing considering it is the Flyers. Have gone 215 minutes without having to kill a penalty, which is the longest streak since the league began tracking this. So that is, I mean, and remember, this is the Flyers. This is the Broad Street Bullies. They don't take a lot of penalties right now, I know, but to go.
I could give you the easy answer for that one.
Yeah.
basically the coach probably read him the riot act and says our penalty kill is so bad we shouldn't take any more penalties, and they're working with that because they have a bad penalty kill.
No, they really do, and not a great power play. Although it was interesting last night to see Nolan Patrick on the power play in Simmons' spot. Nolan Patrick looked really good there, I thought. And
yeah, I don't know if I want to risk Nolan Patrick doing that though, because he's had enough injury problems. One badly placed slap shot
in front of the net like that is tricky. I do agree with you. Yeah,
I would rather put somebody else there and not put Patrick there.
Well, Russ, don't worry. Alexei Zhitnik is not playing in the NHL anymore.
Yeah, no, he could. I mean, that was a beautiful play. The tip the goalie scored, though. I mean, that was goals of the night, and just you can see the skill coming out in Patrick. Although Patrick, I want to throw this out there, is probably the least happy person when he scores a goal of any player in the NHL. Have you noticed this? Like he
just doesn't want to be a show off. He's just a kid. He's a boring Canadian kid. That's what he is.
Beyond not being a show off, like he literally doesn't look like he has scored when he scores.
He's happy. Trust me. He was happy in the locker room. He's like he's like your typical like by the book Canadian. Doesn't want to show anybody up.
And he is so. I mean, yeah, he's.
And you know what I was thinking of, Mike? It would be like Dan McGillis if he were shooting.
There you go.
Because it never went on net.
There you go. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. But good stuff, guys, as always. Thank you so much. We will be back again tomorrow. I guess 1 o'clock-ish tomorrow.
1 o'clock. Yep. I'll be on location again.
Excellent. Remember that the buzz is just hockey. We will talk to you then.